Welcome, my friends, to Next Level Change Success, a change conversation for leaders, project and change practitioners for today and tomorrow. My name is Therese Perez of myvirtualchangemanager.com, and I'm an experienced change and project professional and people leader with many years of experience in the industry. I love business, and I love the people side of business especially. So nothing lights me up more than seeing people use change management, project management, and strong change leadership to engage, motivate, and inspire people, and ultimately transform organisations. If you've heard about change management and have no idea of what it involves, then you're in the right place. If you know about change management, but you want to take your practices to the next level, then this is where you should be. I'm going to share the stories of my experiences, interview some fantastic people, and I'm going to explore all of the challenges and opportunities that you face in organisations right now. So please join me and let's go and have some fun. Hello, and welcome to another episode of Next Level Change Success. My name is Therese Perez, and I'm the founder of myvirtualchangemanager.com. Before I begin, I'd like to acknowledge that I'm recording on Tharawal country and pay my respects to the traditional owners and custodians on the land on which I am recording. And I'm excited today about the episode. We're talking about fast change. How do you speed up the rate of change in organizations? And this is very, very relevant to today's pressures that a lot of organizations are facing. And it may be even for yourself, if you're a people leader, around the need to change your team, the ways of working, become more efficient, whatever that may look like for you. But there are some things that you want to look at. A lot of the times, organizations are talking about resilience and how do we increase resilience. But resilience and resistance, these are concepts which seem to be very negative based. And I prefer to take a strengths-based approach. And one of the biggest strengths you have in an organization is, in fact, the potential in your people. And all organizations, there's not many that aren't missing a trick on this one around how to engage their people, how to look at and take a strengths-based approach to the things that their people do well, look to motivate them, and look to work with them around a growth mindset to prepare them to the presence of change and embracing change. Because all organizations, it doesn't matter where you work, are requiring their people to change and to perform and to really link to the purpose. Where it's not working are the very archaic mindsets that a lot of management and leaders have, where essentially they've been promoted based on their subject matter expertise rather than generalist skills to be able to motivate teams, bring teams together. In the Amy Edmondson conversation around build a psychologically safe environment for their team so that they can perform. It is a skill set that leaders are not developing enough, or those in management, I should say, because I guess a true leader is someone who can generate excitement with their staff, who can motivate their people, who can connect with their people, and who can generate performance from their team and create the space for that. And that is a skill set that not many managers have because of the historic ascendancy in organizations, which is very much to do with their expertise and skill set versus their ability to lead. And a lot of organizations are starting to come unstuck in this fashion. They're panicking. They're not able to respond to change as well as they normally would. And they're, flapping about a bit in the wind versus being able to really invest in their people to make sure that they have the right headspace, the right mindset themselves so that they can lead their teams through change. So I'm going to cover off a couple of key topics around fast change, which are very relevant. And the first one is around mindset. And when I talk about mindset, it's about the approach that people have to their work and also the understanding and presence that they have to the environment in which they work. And that there is an intention, typically in most organizations, to change often. Change strategy and evolve, change their programs, change their IT and tech landscapes, to introduce new ways of working, to respond to economic change, to be able to respond to broader change in the markets that they're in. So there really does need to be, and it sounds very cliche, we talk about growth mindset. I say an open mind and a flexible mind. Can you train yourself to do this? Absolutely. It's very, very much about, first of all, naming it for people, and leading a team in this day and age is very much around continuous improvement. There's not many areas of an organization. In fact, I can think of no area in an organization that is not needing to continuously improve the way they do things. So become a learning team, a learning organization, an organization which is going to continually evolve, and stating that as a cultural intention, and talking about what capabilities or discussions do we need to continually have and promote in our organization and within our own team meetings to have everyone prepared about the evolutionary journey that the organization is going to continue to have. Sometimes it's about stating, in some ways, the bleedingly obvious, but what people are not present to in an organization, which is that their organizational ecosystem exists within a broader macro environment of constant change. And the rate of change is faster than ever. However, not all organizations are moving at the rate they need to. And they're the organizations which are plateauing, which are struggling, which are now, have these new platforms of urgency because of financial pressure where they need to respond. And I've been in many organizations which have faced it around what's the relevancy of this organization? Should it actually exist anymore? There's a lot of conversations I've witnessed and seen over my career, and down to even just basic competition conversations around, are we competitive anymore? And many organizations are having these conversations all the time because of the introduction of new technology, the AI landscape, the changing customer need, the economic pressures, as I said before, the lack of disposable income. So many organizations needing to change their mindset. And when I say organizations, it's actually every single individual in that organization, and recruiting people who have that open, innovative mindset to evolve and change the way that their teams are working to be more efficient, and also to have the team leaders and team members on the journey. So it's not often that you're directing or changing and transforming an organization where there are people who are actively working against it. In fact, most individuals now have a mindset of, well, if I knew what was happening, I could also help. Because ultimately, most people intrinsically want to help and contribute to the journey. Your team members are smart individuals who only if activated in their motivation, in their sense of purpose, in their ability to team, fundamentally, most, if not all, individuals are ready for the call. It's just the leadership simply do not engage them well enough. So, mindset, having that conversation. Where are we at? Checking it in. What's a positive mindset in times where there's pressure? How do we respond? What is healthy stress? What is unhealthy stress? And making it so that each individual is setting themselves up for success from a mindset perspective. The second part around fast change is about purpose. And we talk often about the why in change. Why would I show up and jump on this train of change? Why are we doing this at all? So that I can understand it, and then I can make a choice about whether I'm going to jump on board the change train or not. When it comes to fast change, it's very much not just about a business why. It's about linking it to purpose, linking it to customer, linking it to staff and people in an organization. What's the benefit? And most people and most leaders will be more comfortable in this is what we're doing, not spending enough time on this is why we're doing this, and more importantly, this is why we're doing it now. Because a lot of people will contest when, as people are saying, we're doing this because of X, Y, Z, they will say, well, yeah, but why now? Why didn't we do this 6 months ago? And getting present to the concept of we're doing it now because of X, Y, Z, and there is that sense of urgency to do it now is really, really important. So people know the immediacy of the need, especially when it comes to fast change. If you want people to change fast, you need to give them a real sense of urgency around that, which has a lot to do with the why, but especially to do with the why now. So if you're leading a change where you need people to get on board fast, you want to make sure that your messaging is simple, it's clear. Fast change also is about bite-sized. It's not about major transformation or a big sideswipe happening across the organization and we're totally changing direction. Try and turn it too fast, it's like, trying to avoid the iceberg with the Titanic. It's not going to work. You cannot be agile in that fashion. You need to actually chunk down the change into bite-sized pieces and communicate the immediate need, especially when it comes to fast change. The immediate why, the immediate what, this is who's impacted, and then we're going to come back and talk to you again next week and the week after and the week after that. We're going to keep you on this journey, but the pace of change needs to be consciously talked about as part of the change in and of itself. It's going to be continual for the next 2 to 3 years. It's going to be small chunks of change that we're going to bring in, but we're going to need to do it fast. And after a while, you do need to have a journey map or a vision map around this is where we're headed, and all of these are lining up to that one big vision. Certainly anyone who's waiting for the big bang, it just doesn't happen in organizations anymore. This is small, incremental over time. It does add up to transformation. But fast change is about, if you can chunk it down, definitely chunk it down so that it can be digestible. It will keep more people on track and it will have them understand the pace of change. So chunk it down, make it simple and digestible for people. Then the next piece of support for fast change is ensuring that you do help people get up to speed. So it might be a bit slower at the beginning. And what I mean by that is it might mean more time at the beginning to get everyone settled and the expectations with everyone. But then the train can keep going pretty fast. There's not many people who can actually, from an agile perspective, think that way, be able to move forward fast. However, as they consciously let go of the past, when you're talking about the future state and you're saying this is where we're headed at all points of your change when it comes to fast change, then, and repeating that story time and time again, I have to say, then people will find it easier to let go of their objections pretty fast. If I think about most changes now, and I can't remember what quote it was, but it talks about change is the process where you can let go of things. The faster you can let go of whether it be the old ways of working, the old structures that were in place, the old policies that were in place, the faster you can let go and embrace the new is actually the speed to which you can change. And that can happen in a moment through communication. If you think about a change that might have happened, whether it be in your life or whether it be at work, and it's communicated to you and you think, oh, okay, that makes sense, you can jump on board straight away, right? But if you're finding that the communication's too complex, or you're finding that the reason for it doesn't really resonate, you kind of get a bit stuck. You get stuck around letting go of the old and moving into the new. The other reason why you get stuck and not be able to let go and step into the new is because it's not really clear what the new is. So you really, again, when I talk about bite-sized change and I said chunk it down, you have to be clear and you have to be able to respond to people's questions to help with clarity. The other thing when it comes to fast change is have it measurable. Know what the almost readiness criteria is for each drop of change. So that there might be a change that you're introducing if you're putting layer upon layer of change, where you might have hit a bit of a tipping point or a big roadblock because people are no longer on the journey with you. they're really struggling. Sometimes some changes you don't realize when you're going to introduce them, but sometimes some changes you think people will react or respond in one way, but all of a sudden you're surprised, and they're understanding what you had in your head from a change perspective and what the leader was communicating, for some reason it has become confused with the people who you're delivering the change to, and they're getting a bit stuck. Now, going and overloading more change onto that, it's kind of like just really having the wheels fall off on the change somewhat. So you want to make sure that if your indicators around readiness, which is a sense of comfort, people understand the change, okay, you've implemented the change, whether it's a new process or a new policy, then you check in with them afterwards. You're seeing that there's low misunderstanding. So, people have adopted the change well, they're following the new policy, there doesn't seem to be any issues. Then you go, okay, well, now we can introduce the next policy change, right? Well, if your metrics are showing that, in fact, you've introduced a policy change, but then all of a sudden there's all these, issues coming out of the woodwork where the policy wasn't being followed in the first place, the old policy that is, and then you've introduced a new policy which has all of a sudden brought to the surface where people weren't following the old policy. There's a whole bunch of remediation work that needs to happen. Well, it's probably not a good time to then go and lay another policy change over on top of that, if that makes sense. Sometimes you have to make sure that your foundations are pretty set, and that the same team who might be resolving the prior issues, that then all of a sudden put under pressure to deliver another policy change where they're trying to resolve old issues. I've seen it happen. Sometimes when looking at policy changes in the past, I absolutely have looked at what, from a change impact perspective, could there be ghosts in the closet that are going to have to be brought out as part of this, where people weren't initially following the policy, and that may result in issues and quite political issues or sensitive issues that might come to the fore that you might have to deal with. You want to have capacity to deal with that. And so fast change is all about that risk management aspect and making sure that you are addressing that as part of it as well, always keeping an eye on that, always understanding it. Over time, when it comes to fast change as well, I talk about change mindset, but I'm also going to talk about change and connected thinking. You are going to become more mature in how you can think in a connected way, how you're going to be able to assess impacts just through the conversation of what it is that you're delivering, and do that fast. So fast change can absolutely happen as you're building up that intel through each of these releases, all these little bite-sized pieces of change that are going to be released. The maturity of all of the leaders in the organization, but also those who are working on the change, the impacted groups, but also if you've got the same change people working on these releases and bite-sized pieces of change, you're going to build up intelligence and speed as you go through that process. So your staffing and your resourcing, it is good to have continuity for at least a 12-month time frame on pieces of change that are getting rolled out. A long, long time ago, in a career far, far away, I was on change from a tech perspective, a core system for an organization. And I was batching the releases of change every quarter. We had consistent team work on that. I had change support in that as well, a sub-team that I led. And we would be able to analyze and assess and size the impacts of the change into packages almost blindfolded by the end of the year, because we'd done multiple policy releases where we had to make system changes. We had good sizing, we had a good system and process in place. And that's what you get from continuity of resource who are working on the change as well. So another element to fast change can happen when you have the same resource working on the pieces of work. But you also do need to have succession planning, because most people in organizations and in their careers now, you've got probably 2 to 3 years of people in a particular role, even less when it comes to contractor or contingent work. So you want to make sure that you have enough people on the program for continuity so that you get the benefits of continuity when it comes to resource on those pieces for fast change. So there's just some key things to think about when looking at introducing change fast into an organization. The change mindset, making sure that it is bite-sized. Think about your resourcing. Think about not just the why, but the why now. These are all critical things. And I hope if you're introducing change in a fast and agile way, then that you're considering these elements as part of your change program setup. I hope you enjoyed this episode and that it can add value to your change approach or your change approach as a leader or a practitioner or even as a project lead. And come and visit us at myvirtualchangemanager.com. There's so much going on in the business, and there are tips and tools and worksheets that you can look at. I hope that you have a wonderful day. Thank you for listening. If this is adding value to the way that you work, the best thing that you can do is leave a review so that other people can find this podcast and can benefit from it as well, because we want to change the change conversation in organizations to be a positive conversation, and we need to start interrupting corporate world and the way in which change is being delivered to be people-centric and to understand the value and the potential of their people. If you want to change the conversation, to come to myvirtualchangemanager.com, reach out, stay in touch, and have a great day.